Hey guys, Vern here we are in Istanbul with one of the subscribers, Aaron, and today we're going to pick his brain and go over some of the things that a lot of the people would like to know about Istanbul. Let's check it out.
Hey, Vern.
So Aaron came here from California and he mentioned, hey, I'm going to be going over to Istanbul. Would you be interested in meeting? And I said, sure. And so a lot of viewers had asked questions about the different costs of what things cost. So I'm going to go over my costs for my flight, and then Aaron can share his costs. So to go from the Philippines to here on a short notice, like a 1 week, it cost me about $650 US. If I had booked a week earlier, it would have been about $550. So what was your cost for your flight to come from California to here? Was it a direct flight?
Yeah, it was direct. Yours was just one way though, right? Or no?
It was just one way.
So mine was 1,100. That was from SFO going to Istanbul, round trip. It is a little bit more expensive. I remember looking last year, you can get it for around $850, $900. Yeah.
Was it short notice or was it a long-term book out?
Roughly about 10 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was your experience coming here? My plane, the seats were so narrow on Turkish Air, it was like, and the people that got on it were huge, and I was pretty uncomfortable. And they didn't social distance on my flight on the center seats, which the other seats were socially distanced. So how about your flight? What was that like?
Well, first off, when I got to the airport in SFO, I got there about 6 p.m. and I literally walked through security. There was nobody there at all. I asked the security guard, she said, there's a lot of Asian flights that leave late at night, so she says it gets a little bit more busier. But yeah, that was the cake. As far as the plane itself, there was a lot of Russians on there with children. This is the most children I've ever been around, so that was whatever. But as far as the flight itself, yeah, it was okay.
No issues. So were there any requirements to leaving the U.S. or just get on a plane and go like any other time?
They checked to see if I had a connecting flight, because if I did, then some countries require COVID testing or some other kind of visa things.
Okay.
But yeah, since I was going straight to Turkey, they didn't even ask if I had a visa.
Wow. They didn't ask if I had a visa. Well, they did ask if I had a visa. That they did check. But they didn't ask if I had a connecting flight, which I thought was kind of surprising. So when I came here, I booked just a budget accommodation because I'm still paying for my place in the Philippines. And so for me to just keep spending money, I'm not really on a quote vacation, but I am in a sense going out vacationing. So for you, you're on more of a vacation. And so you got a little bit higher end place down by the tower here.
You know, it worked out to be about, I think about $27 a day.
Okay.
Yeah, so, you know, definitely on the cheaper side. I feel like if I'm in a city, I shouldn't be in my room. So, however, I am doing a little bit of work while I'm here, and so I needed to have really good high-speed internet. And then the other big thing is I wanted to be centrally located, right? I didn't want to waste my time trying to get from point A to point B. So I was looking for a place that was close to the metro.
Okay.
Right. So those are my main qualifications. Other than that, you know, I read the reviews to make sure there wasn't any like issues with the place itself. And yeah, it was pretty much the cheapest that I could find that had my minimum requirements.
And you wanted to kind of be towards an old part of town?
Yeah, well, you know, when I first, when I got here, I didn't know what kind of experience I wanted to have.
Sure.
And I did not know that the streets are so like up and down, right? Because if that was the case, I probably would have got something that was a little bit farther out of the city. I'm actually leaving Istanbul to go visit the rest of Turkey, but I will be coming back to Istanbul. And when I do, I'll be staying probably on the other side, the Asian side, which is a lot more flatter and a lot more residential. So,
yeah, it's supposed to be. Some people had said it's even more European than this side, which I don't know. I haven't been there, but I also had heard comments that it was more of the residential and the costs were a little bit better over there. So maybe you get a higher quality for a lower price, which would be good if you plan to stay there. So Aaron had said that he had found that the prices were higher on the Asian side. So it's a little conflicting with the information that I had heard, but I guess it depends on what you're looking for and what type of accommodation. You could stay here for as little as sharing a room with somebody with a bathroom that's also a shared bathroom. And there's also people that mention couch surfing. So if you're on a budget and you're poor, you know, then you could do that.
Then
but
you shouldn't be traveling.
well, see, we're a little bit older. We can do that. But if you're young and you don't have any money,
if that's
then
the case.
So All right, so what do you think about the food here? What has been your impression? You've been here, what, 3 days now?
Yeah, about 3 days now.
Okay.
So I've had Turkish food, and then I've also had different other types. Like today, we just had some really good Iranian food, which is probably the best food that I've had. So far this trip. I think Turkish food, the places that I've had, they've been good, but they haven't been outstanding. Like we went to a cafeteria style. As of this moment, I probably need a little bit more of experience. But yeah, I mean, right now we're at a dessert place, and the desserts here they're very much on the sweet side. But they are good. And
They are outstanding. So at some point I'll do something on this place, but they're almost to the point of extreme sweet, where you could eat one small dessert and then you've blown your sweetness for the week. It's that sweet. We ordered a platter yesterday, a sample platter, and I don't think you were
desserts,
eating much of it, but
Well,
I
I've
had
been
to
eating
take.
desserts for like the past couple of days.
And you
know,
were
so
burned out.
Yeah. But I'm back here again today. It just shows to show you. I only got burnt out for like a day.
I'm burnt out for 3 days because it was so sweet. I couldn't do it again for a few more days. But the quality and the craftsmanship that they put into the desserts in this place are just off the hook. This is like a dedicated, top level dessert establishment. It's really hardcore. So
And this is a chain too. This is like one of like 5 different ones. They actually opened up a place in Dubai too.
oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So there's a lot of variations of things that you can enjoy here. You could just eat kebabs and eat really cheap. You could eat fruit, or you could go to a really high-end place. The place that we went today was Iranian, and the food was outstanding, but it was at the upper level, and it was quite a bit more than most places, but it was worth it to try it and to experience it. And I'll do a video section on that after this.
So yesterday, one of the places that we went to, that cafeteria place, we paid what? It was 70, right?
70.
So 70. That was for both of us. We both had 2 entrees, a Coke each, and then I had a soup. So 70. That's roughly like a little bit less than $10. The food itself, it wasn't spectacular, but it was definitely like good value for the money. You saw a lot of locals coming in and out. I had a kebab a couple of days ago. It was 17, so that was like what, about $3?
$3.
And it was like a wrap, whatever. And they give you little side things as well too. So yeah, really good value. It's not going to be as cheap as say the Philippines, but and then the meat quality here is pretty fantastic too. You're not getting carabao or some mystery meat, so.
Right. And so the lira to the dollar is about 7 to 7.5 to $1 US. So it seems to go pretty far. If the lira had crashed, everything would be fairly expensive. It must be expensive.
No, it did crash. That's why it is. So.
Or I guess what I'm trying to say is if it went up in value.
Oh yeah, which it won't.
Yeah.
They're having political issues here, so.
Some of the questions people had were asking, what is the cost of living here? What is the food prices like? And if you imagine an area in your downtown neighborhood, there's not many supermarkets in your prime downtown tourist areas. It's just because most people don't live in that. So there really isn't much here, and I haven't even seen a supermarket. Have you seen a supermarket in this area? You have?
Yeah, they're smaller, like tucked away, whatever. Yeah.
I've seen the really small ones, but
like Migros, I think, is one of them. And there's like Migros Light, just like in the U.S., for example, you got Walmart and you got Walmart like Light or a Walmart.
So you've seen a fairly large one? Oh, I haven't seen anything.
They're usually tucked underneath because real estate is expensive here, right? So for a supermarket, people aren't tripping about going in a basement to shop, right?
Okay, that makes sense. So did you look and see any of the prices at all?
I went in there for water. That's what the main thing.
Okay.
So I got a 1.5 liter of water for 2.5 lira. So that's, I don't know the math offhand. Basically, when I've traveled in Southeast Asia, kind of the standard is 50 cents per 1.5 liter. And so I found that to be a little bit cheaper than so that was pretty good value. What I did know is the fruit and veg here is really high quality.
I agree.
When we went at the Iranian restaurant, one of the vegetables they gave us was a fire roasted tomato, and it's probably the best tomato I've had. And
that was good. So I'll buy a banana and an apple every morning, and I believe they're charging me 50 lira.
No, they're
So
not.
does that seem 5 lira? 5 lira. Sorry. My brain is still not working right. So it's like what, 80 cents?
Yeah.
About 80 cents for the fruit. So I think the fruit is a fair price. That's not too high priced.
It's hard to say because we, like for myself, I haven't traveled around Turkey enough to know. Like I don't expect to see mangoes here, right? Because it's not a tropical country.
Right.
But you know, there's a lot of variety in geography here, right? So I expect that most of this fruit and vegetables they can produce locally. So obviously that's gonna keep costs fairly down.
That's a good point. I'd imagine it's cold enough here to do apples.
Yeah.
So that's a cold weather crop.
Sure.
So it will get pretty cold here, and I can start to feel it getting colder at night. I wake up and I'm thinking,
Yeah,
man,
that's
I
true.
need about another blanket on top of me.
Yeah.
I'm used to the Philippines heat, and it took 4 years to get used to that, and it's still hot for me. And then to come here, and the clothes that I put in my suitcase, I'm already 4 kilos over for the weight of my suitcase. Now what am I going to do when I buy some extra clothes? I'm going to have to wear them into the airport.
That's how you get around it. Yeah.
Oh, it's crazy. So I at least brought a jacket. I have a really heavy jacket I was going to bring, but it was heavy, and I thought I'm already overweight as it is. So yeah, it ought to be interesting. It ought to be an interesting
I get
voyage.
cold on airplanes anyways, so wearing a heavy jacket, it's whatever.
So let's talk about safety. How do you feel here? Have you ever felt unsafe here yet?
It depends, right? Like for example, we were walking down a couple of streets, that had, but as far as like, scared for your safety, no, but there could be people that want to take advantage of you. There are some, like for example, there's a shoe shine scam. Have you heard of that one?
I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is.
Okay, so basically you're walking behind a shoe shiner guy. He drops his brush. You say, hey sir, you dropped it. And he goes, oh, thank you so much. And he starts shining your shoes, right? And then, just to do you a favor, but then he wants to charge you money at the end of it. Another one that people have talked about, actually my landlord or whatever, he was telling me about this one, is you'll be out at night and then some guys will tell you, hey, come into my establishment, I'm going to buy you a drink, or they'll just pretend to be your friend, right? They say, hey, first time in town, hey, you know what, welcome to Turkey, and you go to a place and next thing you know, you're charged all this money.
Sure.
And last night while we were out, right, we were walking around, there was a couple of establishments that were trying to get us to come in, and I wouldn't have gone in, I mean, it's just, because it felt like that kind of vibe. Whether or not it was the case, I don't know, so it's more of being taken advantage of rather than my life being in whatever. If I was to say the one thing that I'm most scared about is if I came out here during the rainy season, right? And there's a lot of steep hills here. Thank you. Oh, wow. Okay.
He just got this radical looking tea.
Yeah.
That kind of blew his mind.
I've seen this like with coffee, but I didn't know that they do this with tea.
Yeah, me either.
So this is kind of cool. So there's a lot of cobblestone type streets like in the backside, and they're very steep. We're talking probably like around a 45-degree angle. And so going up and down that, during the rainy season is not going to be whatever, especially if you're an older gentleman. That I wouldn't want to wish that,
Yeah, that would be bad news. So I haven't felt unsafe here at all, but like Aaron was saying, you need to have some street smarts anywhere you go, and this is a pretty big city. And there are people here that are just waiting for you to be a victim in some way, whether they want to pickpocket you or take something from you. So just be wary, just like you would in any big city. But I think the consensus is we didn't feel unsafe here because we're of a certain nationality or anything else. People just look at us like, hey, whatever, And before coming to Turkey, I didn't realize that it was like it is, and it had such a safe feel. And it might change in a different city, but in this place, it feels like there's not a problem. One thing I've noticed is if you come here to date, I haven't really seen anything conducive to, quote, dating or
Tinder.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe it's all online here. I haven't seen a place where the ladies hang out at like a club or a disco, but
there's actually, there's another app here called HAPPN. I haven't used it yet, but it's basically a Turkish version of Tinder.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, there you go. Have to check that out. Somebody had asked me about the Tinder, and I did look at the Tinder app, and the girls were so over the top. It would be like if you were to see the girls in California, and they were in Beverly Hills, and they were posing with their finest clothes in front of the finest places with marble staircases, and they're like, hey, look at us. That's the photos that I've seen on the Tinder here, and I'm thinking, okay, they would normally be out of my league if I were looking to date here. And do you get that feel? Did you look through that at all?
Yeah, the two groups of women that I saw were Russian-looking Instagram models, and then the other ones were the locals. Yeah.
So, have you seen anything conducive to meeting a partner here on the street if you were to do that?
Well, I did a little bit of investigation before I came out here, and from my understanding is that this isn't like a hardcore Muslim country. Yeah, sure, they're Muslim, right? You will see some people that are dressed conservative here. They're not all wearing the burqas and stuff like that.
Right.
That having been said, I think they're still very conservative, right? You're not gonna probably be able to come here and just sleep around or something like that. From what I understand, it's going to be difficult as a tourist to come here and just randomly meet somebody, and then you're going to have like a one-night stand type of situation.
Yeah, I got that feel too. Yeah. And it may be different outside the city, being that this is the tourist hub, but at least that's the consensus from us at this point. Now, we've also been told that this area is very slow compared to how it usually is, so that could be part of it also, due to the COVID. So Aaron's traveled a little bit where I'm still trying to get my sea legs here and figure things out. So you went over to the Istanbul side recently.
You mean the Asian side of Istanbul, right?
Well, you did both, right? You went to the other side of the European side and to the Asian side?
Yeah.
Okay. And so when you went over there, did you take like a high-speed rail or the tram, or what did you take?
What I did is I took a ferry. I like the water, so it's a great way to whatever. And I went really early in the morning, so you get the sunrise type of effect.
Nice.
So when you're staying, or where we're staying, which is on the Galata Tower side, the ferry goes from there to the other side of the European side, and then it goes across to the European side.
Okay.
Or excuse me, to the Asian side. It's kind of confusing. You just take a look at a map. And then from there, I've taken a couple of different metros. There's a metro that they have that goes underneath the water too.
Oh, wow.
So you can go from the Asian side to the European side.
Interesting.
So that's pretty, pretty useful. And then there's a whole bunch of metros that they have as well too. Plus there's trams out here. As a matter of fact, where we're sitting on, was it Istiklal Street? Istiklal Street. They have, what would you call it, like a cable car? There's no cables, but it's like a cable car.
Yeah, it's like an old style cable car on a electric wire.
There you go.
Right.
And then there's of course buses here as well too.
So there's plenty of transit options here. And there's taxis, but I'm thinking I haven't seen any small recreational type like tuk-tuks. I haven't seen anything like that, or personal carriers. It's always been either the main transportation, the rail, the subway, the high-speed train, or a taxi. There isn't really a lower base that I've seen here, like in the other parts of Asia.
Actually, there's an app. It escapes me what it is. I think I might have downloaded it, but they have a motorcycle, so it's like a hobble type of situation.
Oh, there is something
Yeah.
here? Oh,
So obviously they don't call it hobble, but yeah, it's a motorcycle thing, and it's recommended too, especially because traffic can pick up. Right now it's not so much of an issue, especially where we're at. But if you go out, we're kind of in the tourist area, right? But this is a city of how many millions of people, right?
Big, yeah.
And so when you go out to the other area, it's like business as usual. It's just like any other big city.
Cool. If you come here and you're sensitive to noise, you might want to be far away from the mosques, because they have loudspeakers that really, really project. And I'm quite a ways from the mosques, but I can hear 2 or 3, and oftentimes they will come on 3 to 5 times in a day. So
I think it's 5 times a day, right?
I was told.
Yeah.
Sometimes I only hear it 3 times, so I don't know why. But how about for you? You say that you use the earplugs.
Yeah, I don't travel without earplugs and was it the eye mask, And then you may have like a weird schedule, depending on where you're at. But the thing about you were saying about mosques, you have to be realistic. This is a Muslim country. I would challenge you to find a place that you're not going to be near a mosque, because there are mosques everywhere. Maybe when you go out of the city, it won't be so whatever. and maybe those won't be so. They might not do the call to prayer as much as whatever.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that's just something that you kind of have to get used to. And honestly, I find it kind of melodic, right? It's just the Arab praying thing. It's very like sing-songing or something like that. I don't know. It's just kind of
Sure.
Yeah. If there's something that would wake me up, it's the construction noise that starts at basically the crack of dawn. And the Turks are very social people. And so a lot of them, their days start relatively early, right? And so, first thing in the morning, they're going to get their buddies together. They're going to get a tea, right? And if they decide to choose where you're staying underneath there, right, as their talking spot, they will talk loud. They would talk whatever. And those deep voices, they will penetrate walls. And so for me, that's what wakes me up, right? Because when you hear a conversation going, you're like, hey, what's going on, right? So I met this girl, right, on the internet. And I've never met her actually, but she has an aunt that lives here, and she married a Turkish guy. And one of the issues about coming to a foreign country, right, is that we come to a place when we want to have a partner, right, a life partner. And the thing about the Philippines, for guys who have been to the Philippines, is that the country, in my opinion, has issues, right? It's not a place that I would consider living there like full time, right? However, Filipinos, they make some of the best life partners, I think. So me, this guy who's a Turkish guy who married the Filipina, I'm thinking to myself, that could be like a happy medium, right? Let's say you go to the Philippines, you find your Filipina, and you could come to a place like Turkey, right? And you can bring your Filipina because they're pretty open as far as immigration. Like to get a long-term visa here is fairly easy, and that works for her as well as for you, right? And so that way you can have your life partner here, and then right when you come here, you don't have to be under pressure of am I going to find a local or somebody that I want to be with,
Sure.
Because I feel like the culture here is something that you're not going to be able to just walk into, right? You're going to have some Turkish. You're going to have to speak some Turkish. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're probably going to have to be comfortable with being around Muslims, if not maybe even converting. I mean, some of these families are probably not going to be okay with you coming through and dating their daughter, and you're not.
That's
what I mean?
very true. That's very true.
But as far as the quality of life here, from the little that I've seen, and keep in mind I have traveled to other countries, so I have like a basis to kind of compare it. This is definitely something. For example, in Southeast Asia, right, during the summer months, traditionally like June, July, and August, the weather is typically terrible, right? Guess what? In Turkey, it's not. It's summertime here. It's just like it would be like in the U.S. or wherever. So, the idea of maybe coming to a place like this and summering, right, is kind of something that I would consider doing. It's just, when you come here, you don't want to have the pressure of finding a Turkish person, for a short term, whatever. So if you have, your Filipina, for example, you can bring her along with you, and you get 90 days, right? That's like no questions asked, pretty much. I don't know if that works for Filipinos as well too. So, 90 days is your summer month. So it's just something to consider.
That's a good point. Cool. Yeah, great thoughts. It's like you said, if you want to live here, it's going to be harder to source somebody you're really compatible with, and to not be with somebody that speaks English. That's at a huge disadvantage. I mean, there are people here like that, but it's harder to find that. So if you can find somebody that connects to what your values are and what you like, it's going to be easier to have a long-term partner for the long run. So I agree with that. So those are good thoughts. Good thoughts. Definitely. Aaron's here for what, 35 days?
Yeah.
And so you plan to go south and then to come back to Istanbul for a little bit. So what places are you planning to travel? You're going to hug the eastern side of Istanbul?
I'm very bad at like directions like that, but I'm starting off in Ankara, which is the capital city. I'm meeting some people.
Okay, which is central, somewhat central.
And then from there I'm going to, and keep in mind I'm going to pronounce all these names wrong, Cappadocia.
Okay.
Right, which you have to look up. If you come to Turkey and you don't go there, what are you thinking, dude?
I agree.
You got to go there.
I agree.
I've talked to some bloggers, travel bloggers that do this professionally, and they always put it within the top 10 places that they've ever been.
Oh, wow.
So that just goes to show you. And then from there, I'm going to the coast. I'm going to a place called Konya. And then finally, I'm going to go to Alanya, I think it's called, which is along the coast, and then I'll get to see a whole bunch of little towns.
Nice.
My understanding along the coast is it's like a big party town, because the Europeans can get here for dirt cheap, right? Like, for example, I was talking to this guy, he's from Britain, and he told me that for $150 he got a round trip ticket.
Oh my gosh.
You know what I'm saying? So, and then, you know, Britain obviously is just locked down like the rest of us, you know? So they're coming out here, they're partying, you know? So a lot of these little small towns, that's what they are. There's a beach during the day, and then at night you go out and you party. So that's going to be kind of interesting. And then from there, how do you pronounce that? Ephesus?
Ephesus.
Yeah, there you
Ephesus.
go.
Ephesus.
Oh, you got it wrong.
I got it wrong.
So it's like what, a Roman ruin?
It's an old Christian Roman city that's
Okay.
really
So it's
old.
ruins, right?
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be one of the best in, you know, in Turkey at least, right? And so yeah, I want to check that out. I haven't seen anything like that before. And then yeah, Izmir.
Izmir is very close.
Izmir.
Yeah.
So I've heard a lot of good things about Izmir. It's I think the third largest city after Ankara.
Yeah.
It's along the coast as well too. While the town itself doesn't have any amazing beaches, about 2 hours away is supposed to be one of the best beaches, you know, in this area, or in Turkey, I should say. It's supposed to be flat too, so you know you don't have the issues of the up and down as
Sure.
much as you have here.
Sure.
It's a very younger oriented city. I heard like the median age is around 30.
I did hear that too, right?
And there's a lot of universities. There's a lot of industry out there. They have a pretty large port. I think it's the second largest port in Turkey after Istanbul. So right now, I like Istanbul, but what I really like most about Istanbul is the Turkey aspect of it, right? I honestly, as of right now, I don't see myself living, because I actually came to Turkey thinking that I might want to base myself here. You know, it's geographically located pretty well, you know, being next to Europe and whatnot. Prices are pretty reasonable, right? And then the Middle Eastern culture is something that growing up in the United States, I don't see a lot of, right?
Right.
And so that kind of exoticness is something that I want to have in my life, right? You know. So when I came here, I was looking at potentially what places that I would want to be interested in, and yeah, if I was going to do Istanbul, I would definitely not do the European side. It's kind of central, you know, because after X amount of time, it's just gonna be annoying, right? Whereas when I come back after I do that little tour, I'm gonna come back and I'll be here in Istanbul for another 7 days. I'll be staying on the Asian side, and hoping to get like a different kind of vibe or whatnot. So we'll see how that goes. But Izmir is probably going to be the big competitor, just kind of what people are saying and whatnot. And if I ever want to, I could just come here. It's not that far away, you know.
Sure.
So
Sure, and that's probably what I'll do next also is I'll go down to Izmir and see if it's too big for me. If it is, then I'll go outside of that and find my happy medium. And then I'll spend probably a month down there exploring the ruins and videoing from there. And then poke over to Cappadocia and try to explore some of that region there. So yeah, it's a fascinating area, and it offers a lot of different opportunities for us foreigners. And so what a win-win.
Yeah.
So right on. Well, thanks so much for being on, and I appreciate you meeting me, and hope to see you again on your way back up.
Sounds good.
All right, Aaron, thanks again.
You're welcome.
You bet.